how's it going? First impressions are very important. They're not solely important, but they do help influence how we will see and feel about something even after multiple viewings. Because to be honest, after multiple viewings, they may very well change our opinion on something. But at first impressions will pretty much set things to go forward. And that's what we're going to be looking at today. My first impressions of the movie, Your Name. No, it's not called that, and your parents should feel stupid for naming you it. No, actually, that is what the movie's title is. Those two words, Your Name. And yes, if you're wondering, it just so happens to be an anime, because only an anime would be so pretentious enough to be called that. Anyways, this movie was released back in 2016. To be honest, I didn't actually go see it in theaters. In fact, the only time I actually found out about this was on Facebook. Yes, I know Facebook is going to be really happy to hear about that, and I'm probably going to get spammed a lot now. In which my cousin posted about it because she had went to watch it. I know, go ahead and make your Mexican cousin jokes in the comment section below. I'm looking forward to them. But anyways, it wasn't the fact that my cousin went to go see it that really interested me, because to be honest, my cousin really doesn't have that great personal taste in movies. She's the kind of person who will look at the relationships in the Transporter series and think that they're a stunning romance. No, actually what interested me was the fact that it was being released in theaters. Something that most anime films, well, don't get to achieve. To be honest, I'm not including Dragon Ball because that series to me died years ago, and it's only being kept alive due to some sycophantic tendency to milk things into oblivion. But anyways, I did hear about it, but I didn't want to go see it, mainly for two reasons. One, I'm not the kind of person to spend money on that, and two, I really didn't have the time. So I decided to wait, and eventually it did come to my local library. So yes, support your local library, it's very important. And I decided to go and, well, borrow the DVD. And on the way home, I came across a red light and I kind of had to stop for a second, so I decided to read the back of the box blurb. Which was one of the things that made me really want to see the movie, and also very fearful of seeing the movie. You see, the main concept of this movie was that we're having a bit of a Freaky Friday incident in which two characters, a boy and a girl, swap bodies. Now the creative in me got really excited because, well, this is a great way of exploring characters through the eyes of a different character. So, well, I was all on board for this. However, the cynic in me immediately knew that, well, this is anime, and you idiots have a tendency to pervert things like this to a very unhealthy degree. So I was torn between two worlds, but as you all know, for me, nothing is sacred, nothing is safe. I do believe it all deserves a chance. And, well, I was willing to give the movie just that, a chance to change my opinion, a chance to give me a good first impressions. And we're going to see if it did just that. But first, let's go over a bit about the movie so that we can refresh some of you that have watched it. And, well, spoiler warning for those who haven't. Though, to be honest, if you're actually watching this and you haven't seen the movie, you're an idiot. Now, the movie actually begins with a bit of narration, what movie doesn't these days, which it pretty much just talks about some sort of sense of loneliness and feeling of loss, and that they're longing for something that's missing in their life. Which is, well, not offbeat from most anime. One of the things that is brought up is the fact that the characters are finding themselves waking up, remembering dreaming about something, though they're not exactly sure what they were dreaming about, but whatever it was, it caused them to wake up in tears. So my guess is that you probably have some sort of psychological damage, and you might want to get that checked out. What follows next is that literally, I kid you not, in a theatrical release, an actual anime opening. That's right. Music, visuals, the whole 9 yards. It was quite jarring, to be honest. Now, I touch on this because it's going to become important later, so remember that. But anyways, like I said, this movie's main focus is on two characters, a boy and a girl. The boy being called Taki Tachibana, and the girl being called Mitsuha Miyamizu. Don't quote me on that because I'm terrible at names. This is actually kind of ironic considering the title of this movie. And of course, like I said, we're dealing with a bit of a Freaky Friday situation here with the characters swapping bodies. Now, how it's done is pretty well established in the movie. They pretty much go to sleep and then they wake up in the other's body, where they pretty much spend the day until they fall back asleep. And in fact, that's our first scene with our character, the boy finding himself in the girl's body. And of course, his reaction is kind of natural. He wakes up, he finds himself in a room that is not his own, and in a body that is not his own. and is kind of freaked out about it. And then he ruins the situation by, I kid you not, grabbing his boobs. I don't know who thought that perverted antics in anime was funny, but whoever they were, kill yourself. Now, of course, we gotta have some sort of gender equality here. It's because the girl does a very similar thing. She wakes him in the room that's not hers, and she kind of freaks out and realizes that there's something between her legs. But I will say that that particular scene isn't exactly focused on, and in fact moves by very quickly, unlike with the boy grabbing his boobs, because let's face it, if they could make an entire movie about that, they would. Now, as you might expect, what is on par with movies like this is that the characters just immediately assume that they're in some sort of dream. So they go on a killing spree, GTA style. No, actually, they just pretty much just go with the flow and just try to live it out. Which generally is not a natural reaction. Normally you would find them in the corner screaming and crying. But again, anime, you find yourself in a different world, just go with the flow. It doesn't matter if you get killed multiple times in gruesome ways. Just deal with it. Now, there's actually a really interesting theme that reconnects ourselves back to the whole concept of dreams, that when these kids eventually do wake up and find themselves back in their original bodies, they really don't have any recollection of their, well, previous endeavors. Now, you can't technically make a movie off that, or at least you can't make an interesting one, so the kids eventually, yes, find out that they're body swapping with somebody else, and it comes in the form of them leaving notes for the other. And sort of, well, that's where the movie just goes for a little while. I kid you not, we get a bit of an montage moments in this where the kids find out that yes, they're switching bodies, and they start leaving notes for each other, telling each other what exactly they're allowed to do in the other's body. And yes, if you're wondering, the girl pretty much just says, "Stop using my body, you pervert." But of course, we're not going to focus on that because it's an anime and we got other antics to get to. And to be honest, that actually kind of happens a lot. A lot of development is just rushed past so we can get to some other garbage. And to be honest, sometimes it's not too bad. We can pretty much figure out what's going to happen. And the montage isn't too bad. I mean, yes, we get about 3 of them, and it gets annoying after a little while. But eventually, we do get used to it. What we don't really get used to it is the fact that the character development is just like dropped on its head and just left to die. I kid you not, we do get some other side characters, but they're introduced so quickly and then just dropped on the show for a while that eventually when they do come back, the first question that comes out of our mouth is usually, who the hell are you again? Again, kind of ironic considering the movie's title. Now, one thing that is actually pretty interesting is the relationship between Taki and Mitsuha, as it is pretty well developed in some cases, but more importantly, the voice actors do a very good job of bringing across, well, the age of these characters, which is somewhere around like late teens, early college age. Definitely late teens for the girl, I would have to say, which only makes the whole perversion thing kind of creepier. But again, a lot of that relationship building is just pushed right past so we can get to something else. And, well, when it comes to character building, you can't do that because they're the main reason that we're watching the show, to see what's going to happen in the story through the eyes of our characters. But we got other problems to deal with, because one of the things I'm pretty sure you're asking is, doesn't these kids try to meet up? I mean, the movie does take place in a more modern era, so the internet is available, phones are available, why don't they just try calling each other? And to be honest, they actually try to address that. There is one scene in which one of the characters do try to call the other, but it doesn't get through. And then that's it. I kid you not, they don't bring up anything like that again for a good while, which makes you wonder, what the hell were these writers smoking? I mean, it's the first thing that anybody would actually do, apart from the whole boob grab, is to try and figure out where their other self is. Am I indeed in a fantasy world, or am I just in another person's body, somewhere else on Earth, doing terrible things to them? But eventually, and I emphasize that word, eventually, one of them does figure out where the other one lives and decides to go meet up and say hi. And this is where we get a twist. Now, in recent years, twists have been kind of, well, hard to come by. And I have to say, this twist here was pretty damn gorgeous. This is one of the best twists that I've seen in recent cinema. I mean, Shyamalan's gonna have to watch his back. This beats a lot of his twists flat out right. Not only does it bring back a lot of the previous scenes and a lot of previous questions, but it all syncs up beautifully to the point where that yes, you can actually start seeing it coming on a second viewing. But again, we're talking about first impressions, and like I said, my first impression was, God damn, that twist was beautiful. And what follows is another beautiful scene where we get some sort of like flashback, and oh my lord, it is just... Listen, I know anime has a tendency in which it is, you just say anime is beautifully drawn, people go, yeah, well, of course it's beautifully drawn. It's like saying the sky's blue. It's nothing new. But here, my God, this scene was breathtaking. Not only was it beautifully drawn, but it was beautifully animated and beautifully designed. It not only just gives you previous scenes that we never really saw before, but it emphasizes on the character growth, and more importantly, the characters themselves. There's one character that's sort of like a dick, not unlike myself, and which we kind of just sort of accepted, and we're like, yeah, it's a stereotype, so whatever. But they are brought back in this scene, and my goodness, is it like just a heartbreaking moment in which we actually start to sympathize with them. Throughout it, it's just beautiful, it's wonderful, it's one of the best scenes of the movie. It's pretty much one of the reasons why this movie got so much attention. And then, of course, we return back to the present, and that is utterly ruined by the guy finding himself back in the girl's body, and of course, grabbing the boobs. Not only does he grab the boobs, but he's crying while he grabs the boobs, and it seems like it's supposed to be some sort of funny moment, but it's not. It's just not. Listen, anime community, you gotta stop this, okay? It's not funny. For the most part, it's actually very annoying, awkward, and gross. That's the reason why we keep seeing you guys as annoying, awkward, and really gross. But yeah, great moments ruined by utter stupidity. Not unlike the ending. Because I kid you not, the ending pretty much goes a whole Goonies style, where a bunch of kids band together to save a part of the town. And to be honest, the ending felt kind of forced and rushed. Almost like they realized that they were running out of time, and they needed to just throw in whatever they could in order to have a conclusion. And to be honest, the conclusion we kind of saw coming. What we didn't really see coming was the fact that out of the blue, just like it had started, all of a sudden the kids no longer are able to body swap, and they actually start to lose memory of what was happening. And like I said, it just comes out of the blue. The kids no longer remember what was going on. The notes that they previously took just suddenly start disappearing. And it's like, what the hell is going on? The one thing that the kids do remember is that they were looking for someone. They can't exactly remember who or where they're from or what they look like. In fact, they can't even remember their name. Hence the title of the movie. I guess they had to squeeze it in somehow, and well, there you go. And I have no idea where this ending was supposed to really be going, because it pretty much just ends with a whole, and they lived happily ever after. The end! It's jarring, and the stereotypical ending that you would have thought of would have been a whole lot better than what we got. But yeah, that was my general first impressions of the movie, Your Name. Now, I should state this right here, right now, before I go into further detail about this, that this movie was technically good. I mean, to be honest, this movie wasn't a failure. It made $5 million in the US and about $350 million worldwide. It is literally the highest grossing anime film to date. That is an achievement, people. But to be honest, The Great Wall, King Kong Skull Island, and many, many more made a lot more overseas than it did in the US. And there is a reason behind that. Those movies aren't exactly considered cinematic successes. In fact, The Great Wall was criticized beyond belief. And there is a reason why this one really didn't make much of a success in the US. Mainly because of the fact that it was targeted towards a very niche audience, and the general public that it could have gotten was turned off by a lot of the problems. One of the main problems, of course, was that there was very little character development. Yes, the characters themselves are kind of interesting, but an interesting character is going to only take you so far. We need to see them grow. And like I said, a lot of that growth was just pushed right past. It was rushed. It was not focused on in a way that it should have been. And another thing that will really turn off your audience is by making them feel stupid, by pretty much telling them that they're stupid, by having the characters literally explain things to them. Now, this movie has a lot of anime cliches, a lot of anime tropes, and to be honest, This is one of the more detrimental ones. We see this all too often in some of the shows where a character will be powering up, and instead of just giving us visual cues to let us know exactly what's happening, you'll literally have a character go, "Oh my god, he's powering up! Why is he becoming so powerful now? It must be because he is screaming real loud and pushing himself beyond his limits." In other words, you're pretty much telling your audience, "Hey stupid, guess what? You can't figure this out for yourself, so we're going to tell you." And this movie had a lot of that, including a lot of meta-narrative. Now when it comes to a meta-narrative, it can actually be a focal point of the movie, and many people can actually kind of like it. Now it's the kind of meta-narrative, people die if you kill them. Which is a shame, because like I said at the very outset, that this premise was very interesting, and it was very intriguing to see where it might have gone. But sadly, it was just bogged down by just way too many of these problems. So yeah, I can understand why the general public didn't really like this movie. But again, like I said, this movie did very well, and there are several things that made this movie really great. First and foremost, the art style. Now, as far as you can tell, this movie cost about like $3 to $5 million to make. Now, ain't no small loan of $1 million, okay? Usually, anime only costs about like 3 bologna sandwiches and maybe a root beer. And a good deal must have gone to the animation, because my god, scene after scene after scene of just beautiful animation. And not just, stills where they have some prick come in and draw the background. No, I'm talking about the pans, the character movements. Oh my goodness. It was just beautiful. Like I said, just the flashback alone. You guys can probably look it up on YouTube. But the flashback alone, my god, it was just gorgeous. And what was also gorgeous was the music. There's a reason why a lot of people went out and bought the soundtrack to this movie. A lot of the music here is spot on delicious. True, some of the implementation was kind of off, but that still doesn't take away from the fact that it was good music and you're going to buy it. And the third thing that was just gorgeous was, again, that twist. My lord. I love it when my heart is played with, and well, my heart was definitely played with here. It was a great twist. I'm really happy that it turned out really well, even if it was ruined by the falling moment. Which is one of the reasons why I'm actually sad about this movie, because that's what it was supposed to be. It was supposed to be the outbreak to the general public of a I wouldn't say totally original story, as there are some concepts out there that have been done before. For instance, if you want to look it up, there's a movie called Lake House that is very similar to this, where more or less a guy and a girl find themselves living in the same house but different parts of time, and the only way they can communicate with each other is through letters in a mailbox. It's an interesting movie if you want to take a look at it. But in any course, this was supposed to be anime's outbreak to the general public to show that it was more than just boobs, stupidity, and lame jokes. And to be honest, it kind of failed in that aspect. Sure, anime fans would like this, but the general public wouldn't just not be able to get past all those cliches and, stupid antics. And I'm one of the people who adamantly say that I will never say that a movie or show should not be made, simply because I don't want to stifle that creativity. But I will say that this should not have been made as a movie. Yes, as you might have guessed from the opening, you might be wondering if this was originally some sort of show or something. And as far as I can tell, no. I can't even tell if this was originally meant to be a show, because, to be honest, I actually think it would have done much better as a show. Just a single season, 13 episodes, 22 minutes apiece, it would have been much better than what we got right now. First of all, because a lot, and I mean a lot, of the problems that this movie faced would have been easily fixed simply by giving it more time as a show. We had more time to build up characters. We had more time to develop this whole concept of body swapping. We would have had more time to build upon the world that, well, frankly, might have looked beautiful, but was kind of rushed past. But yes, I do believe that it should have been made in a show. And to be honest, I think I would have watched it if it was made into a show, instead of just feeling obligated to watch it because, well, I thought it might have been interesting. It only turned out to be sort of interesting. Now, again, at the end of the day, I want to reiterate, this movie was not a failure. Okay? As much as we may not like it, this is an industry. These are companies. They need to make some money. This movie made $358 million worldwide. Highest grossing anime film to date. It It made its budget back in the US alone. This is no failure of a movie, but it was failure to break into a general audience. Now that being said, that it wasn't a failure, there were just too many problems with it, just too many cliches. It was just too anime, which is one of the reasons that, despite the fact that it had an interesting premise, that visually it looks stunning, and that of course, yes, that twist and flashback was just spectacularly done, I wouldn't be surprised that in a few weeks' time after watching it, you'll forget everything about its name. Anyways, guys, there you have it. My first impressions of the movie Your Name. What were your first impressions? Write it in the comment section below. Did you really like that twist like I did? And what about the music? Was it as great as the visuals? And do you really think that it was supposed to be a show rather than a movie? Write it all in the comment section below, and I'm looking forward to reading them. Anyways, guys, that's all for today. If you enjoyed the video, give it a like, and subscribe and hit the notification for further videos. I'm Ricardo, the Cynical Critic, and this has been my first impressions of, okay, what was it called again? See ya!